Right, now the next thing that we're going to do is have a look at a couple of examples. Now the important thing for this is don't just watch one example and then expect that you're going to be able to just remember that every single time. You might need to watch this video of how to work it out over and over again every time you do questions to start with until you get in the habit of what it is that you need to do. The first part of the question is pretty much always going to be the same, whether we're trying to find a missing angle, and in some cases we might need to try and find a missing side length as well. This one here would be finding a missing angle. We can tell that because we've got the x there, which doesn't have a side length. In other cases, we might have ones which are a missing side length. Now those ones will look different. That will look like this. So we've got the angle there, we've got 10 meters, and we've got the unknown side length on the bottom there. Now, you should be able to tell that from the question, or say, some of them might say, find the missing angle, find the missing side. If not, we can see based on the information that we've got there what it is that we need to find. Now, what we talked about in the last video is having a little bit of a think before we even start the question. What would I be expecting to get as this side length? So if I look here, I know that my hypotenuse, which is across from the right angle, is 10 meters. Now I know that's the longest side. So that means when I'm trying to find this, I should be getting an answer that is smaller than 10 meters. I know that if I get something that's bigger than 10 meters, I've done something wrong. So that's the first thing that I've got in my head before I even start this question. That's what we need to do every time we're doing this. Next thing, I've established that that is a hypotenuse. Now I need to label all the other sides of the triangle. I'm going to do all of them so I can see that it is clear that I've labeled them all correctly. Now, I've got the hypotenuse, I need the opposite and adjacent as well. Talked about before, the adjacent was the one that's next to the angle, so that's going to be the adjacent, and the opposite's the one directly across. So that's the opposite there. From there, I can decide which of these ratios of sine, cos, or tan do I need to use. Now, where the x is, I've got the adjacent written there. So I know that for the x, I need to be using a formula with the adjacent in it. The other bit of information I've got for my triangle is this 10 meters. I'm going to circle that as well, and that's the hypotenuse. So the two things that I've circled is the adjacent and the hypotenuse. I now look at these at the top and see which one of sine, cos, or tan has adjacent and hypotenuse. In this case, it will be that one there, A and H, so I've got to use cos of theta equals A over H. So what I'm going to do is I'm always going to write out the formula, cos of theta equals A over H, and that part up to there will be pretty much the exact same process for every single type of these questions. You might end up choosing a different one of these formulas depending on which sides of the triangle, but this setting up the question is the important thing. If you can do that, then you're on the way to getting the right answer. If you can't get this part right to start with, then the rest of it's kind of pointless. So making sure that you label them correctly, taking your time to get the formula right that you're choosing, having to think about what type of answer you should be expecting is the most important thing to start with. Right, so now I've got that, I need to substitute the values from my question into the formula. Now how to substitute, we're just going to replace information from here with what we've got there. So theta we know is the angle, which is 37, so it's going to be cos of 37 degrees equals A, the adjacent side is x, so I'm going to replace that with x, and yes, it does matter where they go, so make sure you put them in the right spot. H, the hypotenuse, is 10. Now, from that part, we need to rearrange our formula like we would any other formula to make x a subject, because x equals everything else. Here, this part is dividing by 10. So if I want to move that over to the other side of my equation, the opposite is multiplying by 10. So if I do that, then it's going to be cos of 37 times 10 equals x. Now if I put that into my calculator, it really is just cos 37 times 10. Remember I said I should have an answer less than 10. Press equals. I get x equals 7.99. What that was. Does that make sense with my answer? Smaller than 10? Yeah, that makes sense with what I'm expecting. Okay. Now there's a few other ways that you can rearrange it. So if the x is on the bottom, then you'll have to do something slightly different. The other videos in maths what show that. So you might need to go back and look at that if you end up with the unknown value on the bottom. But that's how we would do it for finding one of the missing sides. So to start with, make sure you're going over the same process for all of these finding the missing side questions. I'll stop one there, practice some of those, and then go on to the next video for the unknown angles.